I think we would all agree, and Will, stop me if you don't agree, that Georgia and Alabama are the two toughest teams left on Tennessee's schedule, right?
Yes.
Okay. Given what you have seen, and Will knows ball better than many analysts out there, given what you have seen a month into the season, who is the most dangerous opponent that Tennessee will face that isn't wearing red and or crimson?
I'm still going to say it's Florida, and for a lot of people, they would say Florida because Florida is they're the mental block, or Florida has their number or anything like that. Maybe I should buy into that. I don't. I don't buy into that at all. That team's in the blue chip ratio. They have players. If they could now, I don't know if the wheels will be completely off the wagon at that point, but they have a top to bottom physically, let's go do a combine better roster than Tennessee does. Now, I don't think they're particularly well developed. I think Billy Napier's kind of a doofus and probably doesn't need, he's over his skis, especially to have a job of this magnitude. And he's made some bad defensive situations or decisions. But I'll still say Florida because they have players. Arkansas, I like Taylor Green. They've done a great job with him, but I don't think they have players. I mean, they're starting a lot of former SEC teams backups around, up in the front seven and on the offensive line. I think Vanderbilt, while they're improved, Jerry Kill has done a great job coming in and instilling that same thing he did at both Minnesota and New Mexico State. They're going to hit people all over the field, but still Tennessee's bigger, stronger, faster. You were at Media Days, Dave, when those two kids from Vanderbilt came through, and I'm like, oh, son, you're going to get killed. Like, you're small. And then I look at Kentucky. Mark Stoops does it. What Mark Stoops likes to do, the way he likes to set up his chessboard, to win with ball control and defense, play beamer ball. Against Josh Heupel, you will get crushed doing that. And this year, he doesn't have a quarterback that can throw the ball 40 times like Devin Leary has, Will Levis has. So when I'm putting all those together, I'm just going to say the answer to me is probably going to be Florida, just because if you truly believe it's Jimmy's and Joe's over X's and O's, that's the team with the best roster.
Well, in this day and age, though, with things getting, I would say, more even than they have been in the past in terms of blue chip ratio of rosters. You see them spreading out a lot more. I'm going to say something to you. I'm going to throw it to you, and then I'll let you respond. I think at this point, X's and O's is actually more important than ever. Ooh. And I think that with that in mind, this is why I say Arkansas is their biggest threat. Because while I thought Bobby Petrino was done, I thought his offense was way outdated and never coming back. He's totally proven me wrong this year. He's changed his offense. He gets a lot of credit for that. And because of that, am I crazy for taking Bobby Petrino's X's and O's over anybody's X's and O's on Florida?
No, absolutely. You should take Bobby Petrino. I would say if there's someone that's just that's been in the same household with Bobby Petrino in the last 5 years, I'll take them over the X's and O's at Florida.
Very true. I also wonder, you mentioned the whole notion that it's just a mental game for Tennessee. I don't necessarily think that is. I think, and you said you don't believe that from year to year anyway, but I especially don't believe it with this crew, because I think they would have beaten Florida last year with Cooper Mays than they did the year before.
Yeah, I would say that too. Like, part of it last year is people undervalue this a lot. Hitting matters in football. Who's the harder hitting team? Florida was a harder hitting team last year. I know some of the players on last year's team have said, man, that crowd was so loud, it was on top of us, and it was just, we got shook early on and then just kind of couldn't get out of that funk. I would buy that. I do think also Florida hit them in the mouth and they didn't have an answer. I just watched Oklahoma hit Tennessee in the mouth on the road, and Tennessee had an answer. So I'm not as concerned about that happening this year. But that's something that don't get me wrong. I believe right now having a decided schematic advantage on the offensive side of the football is king right now in the sport of football, so long as you have a quarterback. But hitting still matters, and it matters a lot. And you see teams that can't handle another team's physicality sometimes. And to me, that is the one concern I still have. But I feel like a lot of that concern was alleviated with the way that they handled Oklahoma.
So let's talk about, I know you said you don't believe in the mental block, but let's talk about this with Florida, because where I could bolster your point is that how many of the Tennessee Florida games have you watched where you felt that, like, the minute something went wrong for Tennessee, they just spiraled? And it just felt like they were in a panic mode, like, oh no, it's Florida doing this to us again. I mean, didn't it feel like that's what happened last year? One thing went wrong early, and then
I had two people send me texts that were there covering the game that said, "West, y'all are peeing down your leg right now," and that was like something of that nature. Remember the Alabama game where they had the botch kickoff, and it was palatable. You could tell that they were shook at that point. I do think this team is mentally more strong than last year's team. Maybe leadership matters. Maybe just being another year older. I mean, people grow up, right? So maybe that's part of it. But it does seem like this team has a little bit more mental toughness to them than last year's team did.
It's a good point. And I think that comes down to the quarterback position, but let's not say the JM word, which I always get in trouble for saying that rhymes with Roe Hilton. But anyway, when I look at Tennessee, and you said hitting matters, and you're right, you and I have known this, and Caleb, you've known this, that Tennessee wants to run the football. Defensively, I don't know that they scared anybody from a physical standpoint. But based off what you've seen this year and knowing Josh Heupel's approach, where does Tennessee rank among the most physical teams in the SEC this year?
I'm still going to put them behind Georgia, right? I am. I'm still going to put them behind Georgia. But outside of Georgia, Alabama, look, if you're just looking at the box score and seeing the highlights, you might think Alabama's just dog walking everybody. They are struggling at times, and then you'll have the big, huge splash play. And then you know what I mean? And it looks like they had a blowout when they really struggled on the lines of scrimmage. Part of that's issues with their offensive line up front, issues in their secondary. I would say Tennessee right now is the second most physical defensive team in the SEC. I would put them ahead of Texas right now as well as far as physicality is concerned. But Tennessee hits people. And when they get hit in the mouth, they respond. And I think that matters. Now, part of that, I think, Keenan Pili being a grown dang man at linebacker, Arian Carter's like, when you talk to him, that's a different dude, right? Like that dude is wired like an NFL player. I don't know if he has the physical ability of like Ray Lewis, but he has that mental thing like that Ray Lewis did, where he's just PO'd for being great. And you got to kind of respect that. And then the guys up front, they can play. But even some kids that are on that front that are good, they're good young men, right? And they get mean when they're on the field right now. Tyree West. Tyree West is as nice of a young man as you will ever meet in your entire life. And if you need somebody to house sit for you while you're on vacation, the first guy I would point to might be Tyree West on Tennessee's roster. He leads the team in sacks and tackles for loss right now. So these kids, they're playing hard. Part of that too, and I'll tell you, it's something our buddy Fred White, said to us years ago. When Tennessee wasn't physical and they didn't want to hit and they didn't respond to people hitting him, he always said, that's on the strength coach. That's on the strength coach. They haven't created that culture. And so tip your cap to Tennessee's strength coach and strength staff for getting them physically where they need to be, but also making sure mentally they know how to work through tough situations.
Well, I would go to you, but we got to go to Dave real quick, because if you notice, Dave is dodging. Because
how am I dodging?
I've said Arkansas, you have said Florida. Dave hasn't mentioned who he thinks the biggest threat on Tennessee's schedule this is, not named Florida Bama. This is what he does, by the way. He floats it to everybody else, and then he likes to use it against you when you get it wrong, and he makes you forget that he didn't make a pick at all.
I would take I don't say this a lot. I would take Arkansas because of Petrino. And you referenced Billy Napier. I don't think he knows this, from a hole in the ground. I'm not sure how he stumbled into that win against Mississippi State other than talent. And I feel like the wheels could come off at any moment for Billy Napier. That's why I would say Arkansas, but I'm very hesitant on that.
Yeah, I'm with you. What are your thoughts, Will?
And look, I think again, they're well coached. The offensive line is going to be well coached with Sam Pittman. Sam Pittman just made that mistake that we watch a lot of other people make, and he didn't make the adjustment that other people made. Where we're going to be more physical. We're going to 12 personnel, and what we're going to do is run the football. Football's evolving this way, and I'm sitting there looking at it saying, no, it's not. I promise you, these kids they can't block that because these kids don't block that way coming out of high school, and you're going to be handcuffed to that if you're trying to run out of the eye all day long. That ain't going to happen. And so, but Sam Pittman brings in, and I remember KJ Jefferson last year at Media Day saying, we're going to be more balanced. And I texted Eric Kane and Tyler Ivins and said, no, you're not. You know what I mean? Like, oh, KJ, this is going to fail. And I don't know if Sam Pittman's going to be back. Well, they figured it out. Points are king right now. You know what I mean? Go have your receivers run the grass, get them the football, let them make plays for you. And Pittman made that mistake last year. And I think falls into his biases a little bit as an offensive line coach, that he would want the game to get more physical, but that's not where it is. So now they've made an adjustment. They bring in Taylon Green, and Petrino's done an amazing job with them. That guy, he was a great runner at Boise State. Not a great runner. That dude can throw now, and I don't know where in the world that came from, but he can throw. So they're dynamic offensively. I think they're proficient defensively. I do again wonder, though, how talented is that roster if you're getting a bunch of group of 5 guys and backups in the SEC that are the dudes you're having to pull from the transfer portal. And that's the only concern I have with them. But they'll definitely be the best coached team offensively that Tennessee is going to see outside of Georgia and Alabama.